Damos la bienvenida a Kelly Robinson. Kelly es nativa de Chicago, ha diseñado oficinas para algunas de las compañías tecnológicas más influyentes del mundo. A través de su carrera ha creado lugares de trabajo conscientes para Airbnb, SoundCloud, Headspace y muchos otros. Su misión ha sido profundizar nuestra conexión con el último espacio que todos compartimos, nuestro planeta. A raíz de la pandemia COVID-19, Kelly centró su atención del lugar de trabajo a nuestros hogares y fue autora de una guía de diseño digital titulada Where Spirits Meet Space, que combina antiguas prácticas de Feng Shui y Yoga con su enfoque holístico del diseño de interiores. Su conferencia se llama Diseño Consciente para una fuerza de trabajo totalmente presente. So Kelly, hello, welcome.
Buenos dias y aloha from the big island of Hawaii, where it is 3 in the morning.
Really, 3 in the morning. So thank you so much for being with us at 3 in the morning your time. So have you had any sleep at all?
Not really, not yet, but I'll sleep well after this, I'm sure.
So it's our thanks for being here with us so early your time and having this amazing speech. We are really eager to hear whatever you have to say. I think the theme that you're going to cover here is amazing and super interesting. So with no further things, just the floor is yours.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much again for having me. And I think this is an interesting glimpse into the future of work, where I can be on an island in the middle of the Pacific Ocean in the middle of the night and streaming into Latin America. And just feeling so grateful to be reconnected here. So again, my name is Kelly Robinson. I'm in Chicago, and I've been working in the workplace design world for about 11 years and have designed spaces really all over the world. And in tandem with my passion and love for designing beautiful spaces that hold organizations and people as we grow and evolve, I've also become really any ancient practice or ritual or framework that has held humanity for hundreds and thousands of years. So anything ancient with a really deep root for humanity, I find to be very fascinating. So I've studied yoga and meditation in India, and I've studied some of the ancient plant medicines of Central and South America. I'm also a birth doula, helping support women as they give birth and become mothers. So this spiritual world that I love to experience is very much connected to the balance of the material world and the worlds in which we live and work. So I like to merge and play with the merger of the spiritual worlds and the work world, or the material and the spiritual, if you will. And that's kind of what I want to talk about today, because as we've gone through just a kind of a wild ride altogether for the last couple years, which, first of all, I want to say congratulations to everyone who has gotten through and have gotten to where we are now. You know, it becomes really clear that when we go through really big challenges and upheavals and shifts, we need to anchor into something that really supports us. And I can find no things that are more supportive than the things that are really ancient, the things that have been tools for humanity for thousands of years. So that's what I want to talk a little bit about today, is how we can think about using and utilizing these ancient teachings of our past as we can inform ourselves to a future that feels a little bit better, a little bit more grounded, and a little bit brighter. So before we jump in, I want to kind of talk about a word that we talk about a lot in the workplace world, and it gets thrown around a bit, and I want to redefine it, and that word is wellness. So I'd like to consider a new definition for the word wellness today, which is that wellness ultimately is our ability to respond rather than react to any given situation. So if we consider that wellness holistically is really that, it is our ability to, with awareness, respond rather than react to any given situation. We have to think that there's so many factors that play into our wellness, overall feeling of wellness. And it really comes down to our ability, which is, it's like simultaneously very simple, yet very difficult, to simply be fully present. to be fully present in our lives? How might we create environments and workplace cultures and rituals and habits that enable us and allow us to become more present in our lives? That's kind of the theme of today. And you have to just first get honest about all the things that are constantly competing for our presence and competing for our attention. So, on the physical level, like maybe you're tired because it's 3 a.m, or, our kid was awake all night and we didn't sleep, right? Dehydrated, right? And most people are not well hydrated. Hungry, we're overstimulated from too much technology, or we're just burnt out by life. On the mental and emotional side, right? Anxiety and depression has been through the roof for many people, and I think it's a beautiful thing that mental health is becoming less stigmatized, and we can call it what it is. But that's a reality for a lot of people, especially in the last couple. Feeling uninspired, grief, heartbreak. We are humans. We go through these difficult times. There's these things present, as we go through our lives. And then, of course, tending to the things that really deeply matter in our lives, right? Like our family and our friends, the work dynamics, our finances, and our health, right? All of these things are competing for our presence all of the time. So how can we bring about some rituals or sort of medicines that help us stay present despite all of these things that are going on? So becoming fully present, these are the sort of things that I want to talk about today with regards to workplace. The first is around more rituals, so meditation itself. We're going to talk about that and maybe even experience it just in a brief moment here together. And on the other side of meditation and stillness is movement, right? Making sure that we are moving throughout the day and that our spaces are designed to encourage that. And then really talking just quickly about nourishment versus food, right? What it means to actually take really good care of what we're putting into our bodies. And then spatially, we'll talk about this because today's all about spaces. I'm going to talk about Feng Shui, this ancient study of how to arrange our environment to enhance our quality of life. And I'll be showing you a bunch of examples of my own work and how I use Feng Shui as I approach workplace design in very simple ways. I'll just break it down really easily. Nature, of course, being the ultimate inspiration, right? Mother Nature being the ultimate architect, that everything that we love as humans when it comes to design ultimately does come from nature. So how we can be aware of that as we look at our spaces. And then music as an ancient language that we can bring in to help us become more embodied and present in our lives. And I mean, I know that when I speak to people in Latin America, music is just, it's the soul, it's part of the soul of life, right? So bringing that into workplace, why not? And then culturally, at work, specifically I want to talk a little bit about retreating and resting. We're moving away from this culture of burnout and overproductivity and doing. And now how can we really celebrate rest and retreat in the workplace? So that's kind of what's on the agenda for the next 20 minutes or so. But first I want to start with just becoming a little bit more present ourselves. So I want to invite us to just take 3 breaths together. So something really simple, and sometimes people even feel resistance to just pausing to take a breath, but we're going to practice what we preach here for a moment. So wherever you're sitting in the world, go ahead and sit up a little bit taller. I'm going to take a little sip of water. And then we're just going to simply put our hands just in our lap. If you're holding something, just place it down. And we're going to just take a big breath in, close the eyes for a moment, and then just slowly exhale all the air out of the body. We'll take a slow drink in together, breathing in 1/3, 2/3. Breathe all the way in, and we'll hold the breath for 10 seconds. Hold. And exhale. Stay with me, becoming more present. Inhale 1/3, 2/3, all the way, fill up and hold the breath. And exhale. Good. One more time. Stay with me. Inhale 1/3, 2/3, all the way, and hold the breath. Close the eyes. Feel your heartbeat. And exhale. Thank you. We are animals. Our bodies need to move. And so designing workplaces that are open plan, that encourage people to get up and move throughout the day, especially for those of us working from home, I'm a big proponent of trying to have the body be in movement as much as possible, and also taking different shapes throughout the day. This is a swing table from a company called Duffy London. I put this in one of the offices I designed a few years ago. Also put these, Scooter. Swings are a great way to movement into the work. Still fully present at a table with other people. It just adds a really light and fun moment. These are some swings put into another office that I designed just recently in the midst of the pandemic. Easy and fun way to do it. Another thing to think about with movement is I really like to encourage clients to sit on the floor. So sitting on the floor helps us strengthen our spine. It opens the hips. It grounds us. So trying to imagine your workday and space out the different ways that your body sits throughout the day. So whether you're in a chair, you're standing, you're walking, you're sitting on the floor, right? Moving the body and encouraging the body to be in different shapes. This is connected to the yogic practices that are 5,000 years old. Our body is just simply not meant to be in the same place every day. And then a few words on nourishment, and I know this has become a little bit more challenging, of course, amidst a pandemic, is how we share food and how we enjoy food. But the kind of kitchens and kitchen spaces that I love to design are open and really bright. I encourage companies to supply fruit and vegetables and high nutrient density foods. So for those of us who are working in larger companies, I encourage companies to take an audit of everything that they're spending company money on, that is with regards to food or beverage, and really check in to see whether the nutrients are there, and nutrients, of course, are coming from good soil. So really, how can we find, food that is healthy for people, especially if we're paying for it with company money? And then, there's a beautiful togetherness that comes around nourishment as well. Of course, this is going to depend on everyone's unique situation, but I'm a big fan of prioritizing the food spaces within a workplace. I think it's a really powerful opportunity that a lot of times are missed by putting in a little side, random pantry, rather than just making this an open space dedicated to nourishment. So coming back to now, we'll go a little bit more into the spatial ways of designing more presence into our day and into our workday. So nature and feng shui really kind of go hand in hand, right? When we think about feng shui as the art or the science of designing our environment to enhance the quality of our life, there's kind of three things that I want to talk about with regards to feng shui. So one is the balance of yin and yang, and I could speak about that for hours and hours, which I won't do. But we can think about the yin and the yang as, the yin is a bit more soft, it's more cozy, it's more round and curved. And yang is big and wide and open and angular. So most of the design that we find ourselves in is more boxy, it's more yang. So I'm a huge fan of round spaces. So curves and circles of any shape. We primarily see 5 elements, and we want to make sure those are present in all of our spaces, because we are creatures of nature. So it makes sense that we feel best surrounded by the elements found in nature. So those elements are earth, fire, water, metal, and wood. So we can bring those elements in themselves, right? Having certain elements of each, but also color can really help us with that. So with waters, your blues, your turquoises, your purples. Fire is going to be your yellows and your reds and your oranges. Wood is wood itself, as well as your green tones. Metals, anything shiny. And then earth is going to be more your beiges and your pinks. So I'm a really big proponent of color. Like, everybody loves color to a certain extent. And so in all of the offices I design, I love to bring color in, and even just in pops of color where it's not overwhelming, but it's still, it just offers the full complexity of who we are as humans. We are all very dynamic people. This is a product you can tell that I love. It's called the Railway Carriage from Space Store. And it's essentially a room within a room. It's acoustically wonderful, very soft, but also offers this really bright pop of color. So for anyone who's looking at trying to figure out open space without having to do tons of construction, I just absolutely love this product. So I'm trying to think if there's something else about nature. I mean, one of the beautiful things about, what has happened in the last couple of years, of course, is that working remotely has been proven possible. So this gives people the opportunity to go be in nature, much like myself at the moment. So, encouraging connection with nature on every level, right? From being surrounded by nature in the office, in the workspace, to going to be overwhelmed by nature on the regular as much as possible. And then we'll just transition a little bit into music. So, music is ancient. It is a way that people have connected for a very, very long time. It can help us move through difficulties. So, I think that music is totally underutilized in the workplace. When you think about how much money we spend on like carpeting and chairs or things that seem like very standard lighting, it's like, where's the budget for like a company DJ who's, working with music to help people become more embodied and feel better in their day-to-day, and to shift from, any sort of low stagnant mood or energy into something a little bit more musical, with a bit more movement. This is in SoundCloud's headquarters in Berlin that I designed back in 2015, I think. And they had an interesting ritual where every day at 3:00 they would hold Tanzenbrechen, which means dance break. And so for 5 minutes, someone would put on a song, and whoever felt like it would stand up and dance in the middle of the day. These kind of rituals that are essentially free, right? And even if you're at home, working from home, putting on music with a couple colleagues during the day, right? Infusing these rituals into the space to invite more present. It's ultimately easier to be present when we're having fun, and music is just an incredible way to do that. Okay, lastly, I want to talk a little bit about a cultural shift that's happening that I'm a huge fan of, about retreat and rest, right? Again, moving away from this old paradigm of kind of feeling like it's a badge of honor to burn ourselves out and just work like a crazy person and have no time for anything else, to like retreating and resting and actually allocating real estate within the workplace, allocating square footage for spaces intentionally to rest and retreat. So I'm all about bringing back the power nap. This is actually me in the photo. This is the SoundCloud space in Berlin, where we created a little nap room. It was intentionally created for travelers who were often flying from California all the way to Europe, but it ended up getting used by the local Berliners themselves. Like after lunch, people would take a 10-minute power nap. People have emailed me about their love of this nap room for years after the project was finished. It was a very small room, but it had 3 little cubbies, and you could have a little bit of privacy and just get horizontal and just take a breather for a moment. I would love to see more of these spaces in every workplace. And then for the people, especially, people in positions of leadership, to really lead by example by just going to take a little break, right? Bringing a little bit more pause and presence to the day. And similarly, in this regard, this is a project I did for a company called Joni in California. And the CEO of this company is a woman, and she told me that it was really an important part of her company culture to allow and encourage people to cry sometimes throughout the day. So she wanted me to design a cry room, a place where people could go if they were feeling overwhelmed and needed to get some tears out. And so this is what I came up with. So this is a place to just, enter into your own little cave, let out whatever needs to come out, right? Crying is just part of human life. It's a bodily function. And they loved it. And I don't know if people would really cry in there all that often, but just to go and hide away, right? And just process the difficult emotions that just naturally do come up as humans. And some closing thoughts. One of the things that I think about so much, and that especially when the pandemic hit, I was thinking a lot about our homes and how we live in our homes. And one thing that's really clear to me that I have a strong belief in is that the way that we live in our homes and in our workplaces shapes the way that we live on our planet. And right now, we all know that we are in a moment of huge shift in the way that we interact and live on our planet, right? It is a very important decade for our whole species to change the way that we use energy, the way that we take care of the planet on which we live. And so when we think about, if we can think about our workplace, whether that's our home office or a larger building or both, if we really imagine that is a small planet, and how we treat that space and how we interact in that space and how we consume and discard in that space is very much in alignment with the world that we want to see, the planet that we want to see. I think these are some really important shifts that help people stay present. I mean, I know a lot of people, especially in my generation and younger, have pretty chronic anxiety about the state of our planet, right? And just climate anxiety is real. So for workplaces that are aware of that then have composting programs and, programs where they're monitoring how much energy they're using, and collectively as a team, people are working together to just be aware of what they're consuming and discarding. This is also, I think, a huge piece of the future. For myself personally, I feel like I can walk into a workspace and tell right away whether there's an awareness of our impact on the planet or not. And I feel much better and much more aligned working in spaces that are taking that into account. They're taking their carbon footprint into account within the space and the way that they're consuming and discarding. So that is my message. Couple little little things, trying to keep it light and easeful, and open to hearing any questions that you might have, and saying thank you so much for your time and for your presence today, as that is really ultimately the most precious gift that we have, is our ability to be present with one another. So gracias, mahalo, and thank you so much for being here. Mm-hmm.
Kelly, that was really, really interesting, everything you said. One of the things that it shocked me, and I love how you cover it, it's how physical spaces get really closer to human nature. Everything you mentioned, the crying room, the nap room, and everything that actually relates to people having some special and human needs, and the physical space. So that was really, really nice for you to share. So thank you so much. One of the things I wanted to tell you, it's like we have some technical issues. Let me say that to the audience. Para la audiencia les pedimos disculpas porque tuvimos algunas dificultades técnicas. Algunas veces se cortó, así que esperamos que hayan podido tomar la mayor de toda la conversación con Kelly. Ahora vamos a ir a algunas preguntas para ver si podemos hacer como un summary de todo lo que Kelly estuvo mencionando. So Kelly, I have a few questions for you that was thinking while you were talking. So one of them is how we can enhance the spiritual balance between the work team in the organizations. So you cover mainly regarding spaces and human needs, but what about the teamwork? What can you suggest for us to enhance the work team within an organization?
So, I think that teams that engage in these very simple rituals to bring their full presence before jumping in and to prioritize the connection to the breath and to oneself before they just jump in and start working, this can be so powerful. So really really taking advantage of these rituals and using them and seeing and talking about them and making that a priority over, the to-do list in the beginning, and just setting the space, setting the attention to bring full presence into the teamwork.
Okay, great. And along the experience you had working with organizations, is that something that you see that it's actually growing, this tendency of having the human-centric kind of spaces, or is something that you see that it's coming, but it's a slow pace until now?
I definitely see. I've been working in workplace for about 11 years, and it is rapidly becoming the norm. So 100% of my clients know that this is the future. It is because when people are choosing an organization to work for, they know that it's about how they're being held and cared for, and the lifestyle they can live in working for this type of organization. And the way that an organization offers the space tells so much about their commitment to their employees' wellness and well-being.
I couldn't agree more with that. So, Kelly, will you mind sharing with us the last project you're working on?
So I just finished a project in the Bay Area, and it's been super interesting because it's a biotech company, right? So there's certain industries that are doing really well right now, and so I just finished their space a couple weeks ago actually, and they're at the intersection of medicine and technology, and trying to help people live longer lives and have so they needed a space that was vital and colorful and not so biotech cold and lab like. They wanted a more colorful space. So I just finished that one up, and now I'm open for new projects. Aside from helping people with their homes, I've been helping people redesign their home offices because everyone was just stressing out once we were in quarantine. So that's been an ongoing project. Okay, great.
So Kelly, if people want to see your work and follow you in social media, where can they find you?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram at Kelly A. Robinson, and my website where my portfolio is kellyarobinson.com, and from there you can find everything you need to know.
Okay, well, thank you so much for the time you shared with us. It was everything really, really interesting. I think I will return to my mindfulness sessions that I actually left, but you inspired me again. So thank you so much for everything, Kelly. I hope you have a great rest of the night and you can have some rest as well.
Gracias por todo. Thank you so much.
Thank you.